the stuff that you have here in HSR layout,
Yeah.
where you have like startups on either side of the street for a mile, you don't find that almost anywhere in the US, not even in San Francisco.
Hey guys, welcome to Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Caya of Slidebean. He's very popular on YouTube in the American startup ecosystem, although you do cover, I think you've covered some international companies too, right?
Yeah.
But primarily American startups and some bigger businesses as well. So welcome to the show, and also welcome to India.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks to India in general, like the startups in Bangalore showed us a great time while we were here. Flying out today.
Yeah, for sure. And this is your first trip to India, right?
It is.
Okay.
A lot of stuff to learn.
Of course. And I'm sure you've learned a lot of stuff already because you've been here now for, is it more than a week now?
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Okay, a couple weeks. So why, first of all, the first question I wanted to ask is why Bengaluru instead of a city like, for example, Delhi, which is where a lot of people visiting India first go, or for example, Mumbai, that's another very popular city. Why did you choose to visit Bengaluru first?
The whole backstory on why my team and I are here is because we cater to startups. We understand that there's a startup ecosystem in India, but it's a startup ecosystem that I think us Westerners don't truly understand. So that was key for us, for me even as a product person. We have customers there, like what's the ecosystem? We don't know how much to charge them. We don't even know how much we should be charging them. Do we need to discount our US pricing or not? Like that was a big question. So it's a cultural question. But also from the YouTube channel, we understood that probably like 20% of the people who watch our content are from India. So our question is like, what's going on in India? We need to understand it. And at least in the very little or very wrong understanding that we have about India in the West, Bengaluru seemed like the location to come.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely living up to that name of like the Silicon Valley of India. I guess you can kind of compare it to, it's like the Indian version of the Bay Area. Then you have Mumbai, which perhaps you could compare to like a New York, maybe, just because it's the financial hub of India. There's also a lot of startups in Mumbai. And then Delhi NCR, that's like the capital. But in Washington, D.C., are there a lot of startups?
You have startups all over.
Yeah.
The big thing is you have cities that are clearly focused on startups. Like the stuff that you have here in HSR layout, where you have like startups on either side of the street for a mile, you don't find that almost anywhere in the US, not even in San Francisco.
No. Wow. That's so cool. And it's cool that you've like visited some places and you know the names and the vibes of those areas. So good for you.
Yeah. We walked all over these areas just to get what the vibe was.
That's so cool. I wanted to ask just like a little quiz, maybe like what are some Indian brands or like startups that you're now aware of or familiar with since you visited, or even perhaps like before you came?
Yeah, like two companies that had resonated in our research were Instacart, which brought sort of like the mafia phenomenon from Instacart expats. Infosys was key, and we researched a little bit of the background of Bangalore. I'm familiar with the sort of like the SaaS hub that's happening in Chennai. We spent a couple of days in Chennai as well. So of course we knew about Zoho, we knew about Freshworks. We use Chargebee. We use honestly, I don't want to say which brand names. I don't want to say which brands, but a lot of these companies we use, like we are customers of theirs, and I just found out that they're from India, and it's great. I don't want to say because that means that I didn't do my proper research before coming in, so I'd rather shut up about that.
But that's so interesting to hear that. Like probably this is my guess, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but the exposure that a lot of people in the American startup world have of India is in SaaS, right? Like that, those are the products that they're mainly familiar with. They might not even know that they're Indian companies, but those are the ones that they actually interact with. Whereas like, for example, are you familiar with Byju's?
No.
So Byju's is edtech. They're like huge. They're international. But if you're not like focusing on edtech, right? If you're not a kid who's trying to find an online thing to study, you might not have heard of Byju's, right?
Whereas, yeah, and I think that there's also the consumer brand variable, right? Like that you have to sort of adapt consumer brands to the country a lot more because it's an end user. Everybody's going to be using this product. Whereas B2B products, they cater to a similar kind of person. They tailor to a similar kind of company. One thing I was telling I met with the CEO of Wingman, and what I was telling her is, like, you guys have figured out a way to build your brand and your messaging and your landing pages and your websites so that we can't really tell which brand is from where. Whereas on a consumer brand, you can usually easily tell what country it comes from, just maybe because of the logo or maybe because it has like a little funky character that belongs in that location.
Yeah. And I think too, when it comes to, physical products, mainly like D2C startups, they're mainly targeting the Indian market, right? Whereas American startups, I'm not too sure about that. Are they like going international with a lot of their products, or they're still kind of targeting the American ecosystem?
I would guess that, it's so funny for me to be here and say this, but what you guys probably perceive as the West, right? It's so similar, like all these countries are so similar in their behavior that it's easier to like jump from a country to another. So a lot of consumer brands and consumer startups will start in the US simply because it's a high purchasing power market, huge market that is all really homogenous. Extend that to Canada without honestly needing to adjust almost anything from state to state. So it's very easy, and people will have money to pay for your whatever D2C product. Logistics are solved because it's the same country and so on. Then after that, you could do Europe, you could do Latin America with some adjustments. Latin America, you probably have to translate. You probably have to charge a little less. But since Latin America is, 20, 25 countries, you have to deal with, if you're shipping things, then that just becomes a mess in itself.
Yeah. No, but that does make a lot of sense. And when our YouTube channel kind of blew up, there was a video that we posted about why Tesla hadn't entered the Indian market yet. And kind of while you were talking about that, it kind of clicked for me, like Tesla has a presence in the United States, obviously massive, Canada, across Europe, probably South America as well. But then when it comes to like this part of the world, like specifically India, but then also a lot of like smaller Southeast Asian countries and the Middle East, that's where they start to struggle. And I guess...
Yeah, I think it's a pricing thing. I think it's obviously a logistics thing. It's the fact that, well, if you're going to figure out the logistics to bring Tesla cars into a new geo, there needs to be enough of a population to do that. I'll give you an example. No, we don't have... So Tesla, I think, goes as far as Mexico now. Central America, which is south of Mexico but north of Colombia, which is this bridge between North America and South America. That's where we, Costa Rica, are. I don't think any country has a Tesla agency. In South America, I would say maybe Colombia, maybe Brazil, but I don't think so. Why? Because I think the logistics of bringing cars here are very different. Like a $50,000, $60,000 car in those geos plus tax is probably going to be a $100K car. So that's a very, very premium car versus the US where 60K is more affordable, income and whatnot. But for example, people in Costa Rica have started importing Teslas off warranty from the States because they just want a Tesla. The problem is that the market is so tiny that it's not even worth for the company to support them.
Yeah, that's the same thing that we see here in India where people bring Teslas in, but there's no support. You don't have like those supercharging stations. If your Tesla breaks, you have to send it back and ship it to another country, get it fixed up, and then bring it back again. So let's see. But we do have like a thriving EV space right now in spite of Tesla, and maybe because Tesla isn't here, I don't know, like it's possible that the growth that we've seen in the EV space recently wouldn't have happened if Tesla was already here and sort of taking all of that money away from India. So I guess it's kind of a blessing in disguise in a little way. Have you noticed, by the way, being here in Bengaluru, like the EV presence?
I would
green license plates.
An EV car. Like how would you know?
Green license plates. They're the only vehicles on the road.
We've seen a couple.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a couple.
Yeah.
And I didn't figure it out.
And most of them look sleek. I feel like older generation EVs from India just look very bad because they just hadn't figured it out. They were trying to make a tech type product and make it look kind of like geeky. But we now have some really nice sleek EVs, like the Tata Nexon is one that you might see around. You've got Ather scooters. You've got Ola Electric, which has been quite controversial. And while you're visiting, I think since you've arrived, there's been this sort of thing happening where electric scooters have been catching fire in the sun. So because it's so hot and summer is coming, the electric scooters just can't handle it. So, by the way, have you gotten a chance to ride a Yulu yet?
I tried. Well, these are the cultural things I tried. We actually
you wouldn't
sat
be
down
able to
on the thing. I tried my Apple Pay. I tried my credit cards. I got the app, but I can't use it.
Interesting. It hadn't even occurred to me because I'm in the financial world here in India and I have my UPI set up and everything. UPI is the Unified Payments Interface that is created by the government to facilitate really seamless, fast transactions. Kind of like it's like an infrastructure. So you build on top of that. You've got PhonePe, you've got Google Pay, you've got Paytm. I don't know. Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Because it's these little. Honestly, when as a startup, when you're building something, like you have to understand these little quirks around the world. Because, for example, like sometimes you launch a product at a certain geo and you realize that nobody's using it or that behavior is very different, and you've never been to that place. And the example here is like I'll go to a whatever place to pay my check, and like the first thing that they'll do is, how do you want to pay? Card? Like that's already a little weird. My card doesn't have a tap, so it's a chip, so that's already weird. And sometimes they'll just flip the thing with a QR code. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, I obviously researched it after that, but that's it. Like we don't have anything even close to this in our side of the world.
Interesting. Yeah, is that not a thing? Tapping your credit card?
Yeah,
chips.
Yeah, tap like cards with an NFC chip.
But you don't have that.
My like the company card doesn't have it, so that's
got it. Okay,
it's just the case.
But I have heard that because like in Canada, I think it's fairly like it's just like everybody has tap, whereas in the US, like my sister goes to the US all the time, and she'll try to tap at places, and she's like, we don't accept tap. She's like, what?
I'd say US 50-50.
I guess it depends on where you are.
New York 50-50 on tap versus card. There's this really weird thing. For example, you go to a restaurant in the States, and like sometimes I'll go and I'll have Apple Pay. I'm not carrying my other card, or it's a company thing. So like, well, I want to pay with Apple Pay. It's like, well, I have to take your phone because we don't like our terminal is back there. So like these little.
And your phone is unlocked?
Yeah, you have to give them your phone unlocked with the card. Oh, I mean, not unlocked. Maybe unlock the Apple Pay wallet so they can take it and then. Scan it.
That's another really big difference between the United States and India in terms of mobile phones, because everybody's using iPhone in the US. Or am I wrong about that? Like, what percentage would you say? Like, what's the ratio?
In a city like New York, I'd say 50-50.
Okay. That's still like significantly. Over here, it's like maybe 2 out of 10 people, 3 out of 10 perhaps. Depends on what circles, If it's like, I don't want to say like wealthy people, but like it's sort of like an aspirational product, right? It's expensive here. It's considered expensive.
It is.
Whereas Android phones are just, commonplace. That's kind of what everybody uses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, coming back to fintech and like specifically digital payments, I'm trying to put myself in your position because it must be very difficult to come here. Probably the same way it would be if you went to China, right? Where you're kind of like not in the system, right? So you scan your face and they'd be like unrecognized, like we don't know who you are, like you can't pay with your face. Oh, well then what do I pay with? Oh, we only accept face. That doesn't happen here, but I'm imagining what it would be like over there, right?
But for a few things, like scooters were an example. We just couldn't figure it out. There's nothing can do.
No, you can't. I guess
Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi at a Starbucks or coffee shop, you need an Indian number to get your verification code. I don't have an Indian number. No Wi-Fi for me.
Oh, that's another thing. I was actually worried about that because I wanted to ask, like, how are you going to get a SIM card? Because without a SIM card, without a number, like, you're not able to do a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you go to a cafe, it requires an OTP, so you have to have an Indian friend, or you have to go up to some stranger and say, hey, can you like accept an OTP for me so that I
didn't
can...
know if that was the standard. I didn't do it. So I'm on a Google Fi. So Google Fi is this plan by Google, really cool for travel. So it comes out of the US, you have to get it in the US, but essentially you have free roaming everywhere, which is great. So I'm on my Google Fi, that's great. I will receive some OTPs on my +1 number, but I'd say 50-50. Like I'll put my US number, but they'll just never come in. So that was curious with Wi-Fi. I mean, with coffee shops and restaurants. Oh, you also need, this is like an immigration thing and probably out of our scope on government, but you absolutely need a human in India who has given you their phone number and their address, and you need that for your immigration form. Otherwise you can't fly in, which is...
Interesting. What about your hotel?
What?
Like, couldn't you give the hotel number?
I booked my hotel via Expedia, and I didn't get like a contact number. Like a couple of immigration forms asked for like someone, like who is hosting you in India. Luckily, my friend Varun was getting married, and I had his information. I'm just going to put Varun in there. He'll have to deal with the government.
Got it. Okay.
There's a minute left.
Okay, so let's cut.
Cool. Yeah. No, that'll be a good opportunity.
Let me fix your cable here because it's popping out a little bit.
Okay, should I?
Sure.
Okay. We're in here.
And obviously we'll be cutting this part.
Yeah, that's fine.